There was a conscious decision in my life to be involved in something that was flowing and dynamic and living, something that had a life of its own, and I was just a part of it.
Who is the Grateful Dead? The Grateful Dead played about 2,300 long concerts and played hundreds of different songs throughout their career.
First true jam band where they would take the structure of a 3 or 4 minute song and be like, hey, we could solo for 10 minutes.
In 1963, 16-year-old Bob Weir heard banjo music and followed it to a music store where Jerry Garcia awaited. Weir and Garcia spent the night playing music together and later decided to form a band. The Warlocks formed in 1965 and became the band for a series of acid tests.
We were also lucky enough to have experienced the acid test, which was one of the really, truly democratic art forms to appear in this century.
The band was renamed the Grateful Dead after Garcia spotted it in a dictionary. The Dead lived at 710 Ashbury Street in San Francisco playing free concerts and making music known as the Summer of Love. This is where the band's music really took off, attracting their type of fans known as Deadheads. Weird stuff would happen and the smell of marijuana was in the air.
What we're thinking about is a peaceful planet. We're not thinking about anything else. We're not thinking about any kind of power. We're not thinking about any of those kind of struggles. We're not thinking about revolution or war or any of that. That's not what we want. Nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to hurt anybody. We would all like to be able to live an uncluttered life, a simple life, a good life, and think about moving the whole human race ahead a step.
The Dead's recording career began when the Warner Brothers signed them.
I think if you ask Jerry and you ask Bob what kind of band they were, they say they were a dance band. Read enough of their interviews to know they said that before. And I think that's true. I think that's the way they looked at themselves. They grew up in a non-conformity era, right, the 60s. The one thing you could always say about the Grateful Dead is that they were unbelievable touring band together.
They wrote great songs. They had great imagery to their songs. Their songs told stories. They also were just phenomenal musicians.
The Dead became recognized and their music spread. They played many concerts and festivals like Woodstock in 1969.
For a while at the China Cat Sunflower Town, walking jingle in the midnight sun.
The Grateful Dead's first hit albums were Working Man's Dead with the well-known song Casey Jones, and the album American Beauty with the song Truckin'. And Ripple.
Let there be songs to fill the air. Ripple in still water.
The Dead's nationwide success allowed them to expand their touring across the globe to places like Europe.
The band made it easy for all kinds of people to love them, and they made it really easy for all kinds of people to feel like they were accepted. But it was the friendships, it was the memories, it was camping for shows, and it was always the hope and anticipation that this is going to be a good one, or maybe they'll play this song. So the craziest thing was the summer of '95 when they tore down the fence at Deer Creek. But when people started cheering and I turned around and saw that fence coming down and people piling over the fence, I knew it was over.
I've seen some people who were on, any amount of LSD who were just whacked out crazy. That was so prevalent there between, LSD and certainly a lot of marijuana, and then, mushrooms, pretty prevalent as it got a little bit further away from the 60s.
It just attracted it to them. They knew that they could go to a Grateful Dead show and spend 3 hours dancing and smiling.
Deadheads, the Grateful Dead's fans, are all kinds of people. They don't they aren't easily categorized, but the thing they share is a love of music, and they like to have a good time, and they care for each other.
The last album with the keyboardist Pigpen, who died from liver disease in 1973, was Europe 72. After that, the band decided to take a break, so some of them went on to do solo projects. The darker drugs started to roll in, and they knew something was up with Garcia.
Jerry was dying. He was falling apart. He was forgetting the words to all the songs. The Grateful Dead pretty much invented teleprompters, and Jerry was such a mess he'd forget to even look at his teleprompter, so he'd still forget the words.
Garcia got arrested for heroin in 1986 during the tour with Bob Dylan.
Garcia was arrested last year on heroin and cocaine charges, but the charges were dropped when he agreed to participate in a drug education program and a benefit concert.
After he went to rehab, Jerry collapsed into a fatal diabetic coma caused by the drug use. Once he recovered, the Dead made a great return with one of their top albums, In the Dark, containing the song Touch of Grey.
It's alright. I will survive.
2 years later, trouble started to follow them. Deadheads were getting out of control with arrests, vandalism, drug uses, and deaths. The band made an announcement telling the fans to behave themselves. On July 9th, 1995, Jerry Garcia played his last show with the Grateful Dead. 1 month later, he died in his sleep from his use of heroin. After his death, it was noticed and ceremonies went on to remember him and the passing of an era. The band retired 4 months after his death. For the 50th anniversary, the band played a Fare Thee Well tour in 2015. Shortly after the tour, Dead & Company with John Mayer was created. Dead & Co. are still touring and carrying on the era of music to new generations.
My wife says to me, she says, why do you listen to the Grateful Dead all the time? I said, because it makes me happy. I mean, I will tell you, for an absolute fact, I love the concert we saw with Dead & Company in Columbus, but the epitome for me was Ripple. They were playing it on a guitar instead of a mandolin, which was nuts.
Come through the music, would you hold it as it were your own?
Jerry, if you've seen Jerry do that, okay, and I'm saying he never did that on acoustic, but I don't remember him ever doing it. I always remember him doing it on a mandolin.
Dead & Co. are still touring and carrying on the era of music to new generations.
Althea told me.
It's not up to us to define the Grateful Dead. It's this living, breathing thing.
I think that's one of the parts of its magic. Not defining it is that it becomes everything.